Hi guys, welcome back. I promised you 5 videos, and this is number 2 of the 5 videos. For any of you who missed our video, our first video, which was last week, I did an introduction with Tom Munro, and go back and have a look at that one and see what Tom's all about and what he's doing and how we met. It's kind of a fun and very interesting story, so you need to read the first chapter before you get to the second one. Anyway, what we're going to talk about today is what's happening in our market. And you guys, take a minute. If you really want to make sure that you don't miss any of this, subscribe, like, and if you have any questions or you have any comments, please share them with us. You may have experienced something that we haven't experienced, and we need to share that with everybody. So we'd really appreciate if you took time to do it. Just down below, okay? Thanks. I have gone into a lot of show suites because of what I like to talk about, what we miss, or when we're wanting to live in a condo. It's important that we don't miss things. And me, like everybody else, I walk in, I go, oh man, this is so cool, like I want to buy this. And most of the show suites, they have pictures on the window, so they can kind of fool you. And usually everything I fall in love with is an upgrade. And so you need to put yourself back to reality, and you also need to be very specific about your room sizes, because we have a king size bed, so you kind of walk in and go, oh wow, I have a king size bed in this. Well, really, you need to get somebody to actually tell you the dimensions of the rooms that you're looking at. Is this what your suite is going to look like? My favorite thing, and I always say it, assume nothing and believe no one. Get it in writing, dot your I's, cross your T's. That picture on the window of what we call the beautiful North Shore Mountains, you're probably not going to see because they forgot to tell you the next phase is on the other side. So it's all about knowing the questions to ask, and I think this is what most us people like myself as a consumer, we forget to ask. I think probably the very important, pertinent questions. One of the things that got me really excited about when I saw Tom's YouTube was the fact that he was shooting a video in a brand new building, beautiful, beautiful, and I think they were really expensive units too. And he was installing a dishwasher, and what could go wrong with a dishwasher? It's a brand new building. And I do know one thing is that things need to be installed and looked after as per manufacturer's recommendations in order to keep your warranty intact. And Tom was pointing out that the dishwashers that were installed in some of these units were not as the manufacturer had recommended, which was 10 feet from the drain. They were being installed, or had been installed, 15 feet from the drain. So I'm going to let Tom maybe go on about that a little bit in a few minutes. But anyway, I went, holy moly. So if I had a problem, who's going to be responsible? Because it wasn't installed according to the manufacturer's recommendations. So that's a little scary. So this is why you need to get an inspection done on a brand new building. The other thing right now, I'm hearing that they're building like 40,000 new units in the Vancouver market, where traditionally we're doing about 20,000. So much comes into play this. I am not buying a condo. I mean, I think everybody right now needs to learn how you buy a condo, what you need to look for, and the questions you need to ask. Tom, what is going on in our market?
Well, Letty, like you said, there's 40,000 units currently being built. A lot of them are being sold as pre-sales, and when you buy a pre-sale, essentially you don't actually know what you're buying until they've erected the building. And I think what happens quite often is people go into the pre-sale suite and they look at the beautiful finishings that they're in front of them, and there's a lot of space, and the bed looks so pretty, and it's been all staged perfectly. But the real question is they should be asking is, what type of building is it? What type of structure is it? Is it a wood frame building? Is it a structural concrete building? What's the building envelope made of? The 4 most expensive components in a condo, none of them are actually inside the suite. And it's actually the roof, the building envelope, the parquet membrane. Does it have a surrounding landscape that's got a membrane covering it? And what type of piping has been used in that building? And so, kind of bring it back to the leaky condo era between 85 and 95 in Vancouver, when there was all these buildings that were built that they looked really pretty, but they leaked. They leaked all over Vancouver, and still to this day in 2018, we're still dealing with the repercussions of those poorly built buildings that were all designed by engineers. They're all built by developers, the same developers that are still constructing buildings today, a lot of them the same, if they haven't gone bankrupt already. But those same engineers are the same ones that have been building and designing the rain screen technology that we're using today. But the engineers can design the perfect building envelope, but it's all about who installed it and what qualifications that person had who installed it. And not to mention, how much money the developer had. So when you go in and buy a pre-sale, there was just a story in the news just recently about a pre-sale building in New Westminster that people bought into it. They paid the price, they all agreed, and I think it's been a year and a half to almost 2 years since the start of the project, and the developer has now come back to those people for more money, I think 15% of the purchase value of their home, because they don't have enough money to finish the building. Well, I always say to people, if you're going to buy a pre-sale building, you are actually at the mercy of the developer, because if the developer can't finish the building with the amount of money they have, you're not going to get a home, right?
And they have your money.
And they have your money, and you have a contract. And in the fine print of that contract, you really need to make sure you're asking the right questions. Going back to what you were talking about, asking the right questions is, how do you get out of this contract? If the developer doesn't deliver what you expect, how do you get out of the contract? And historically, what I've seen of people who have bought these places, unfortunately, you have this comfort thinking that there's a 2-5-10 warranty that's going to have you covered. Well, the 2-5-10 warranty, essentially, the 2 years is you have to have your unit inspected in the first 2 years to see if there's any discrepancies, any deficiencies. And then the 2-5-10 warranty would turn to the developer to fix those. Well, essentially, there shouldn't be any deficiencies, right?
Right.
Well, the video you watched was of a $1.5 million condo in Vancouver that the dishwasher was installed 15 feet away from the actual sink drain, and that manufacturer of that ASCO brand dishwasher needed, in the actual instruction manual, it said the maximum distance can be 10 feet. Well, the reason why I was there was the Strata had actually hired me because a bunch of the members on Strata had noticed there was a bunch of the dishwashers had flooded onto the floors because the pump couldn't pump the water the 15 feet. It could pump it 10, but not 15 feet. Also, the way that the pipe went through the cabinets around the outside of the island and stuff, the pipe was going up and down. It didn't have a nice smooth trajectory to the drain. So pumps can't pump old water as efficient as they can pump nice hot water directly out of the machine. So that Strata had hired me. Well, of the 49 units in that building, all the dishwashers were installed incorrectly, and also so were the gas burning cooktops. They actually didn't have the proper distance to combustibles above the cooktop for the cabinets on the sides and the actual cabinet on the top, but also they didn't actually put in a proper sized fan to discharge all that exhaust that the gas cooktop has created. It should have had a 600 cubic feet per minute fan above it. It only had a 250 cubic feet per minute fan. So all those people in that 49 unit complex are all living with the potential of carbon monoxide poisoning if they've not actually used their fan. A lot of times people never start the fan, but when you have a gas cooktop that can produce 60,000 BTUs of power, that's a lot of carbon monoxide as you're cooking all afternoon with a nice big pot of spaghetti or whatever you're spending your afternoon cooking. There's a lot of potential there for hazards. So, when you walk into that show suite, really asking the right questions is, forget what's in the show suite. Of course it's going to be pretty, but you mentioned about the bedroom size. I don't know how many times I've gone into someone's master bedroom, and I don't even think a queen size bed would fit anymore. It's so small. And my client is like, what's going on here? Why is my room so small? And I said, well, did you actually physically look at your unit's size bedroom? Because they can definitely fool you with
footprints can all be different.
Totally, the footprints are always different throughout the buildings, and you might assume because there's these big windows and pictures that are fake pictures on the walls and everything, you might assume that you're going to have tons of space, but there's really no space at all once the walls actually get built, right? So not to mention, in construction today, there's just so much construction going on that there's lots of things are getting slipping through the cracks. And kind of going back to the one dishwasher, when you buy a condo, it only takes one thing to destroy your day. And a dishwasher flooding onto your nice engineered hardwood floors would destroy most people's day.
Yes.
But imagine all the people that bought into leaky condos, and they then got 10 years later, less than 10 years, the places were all leaking. They got bills upwards of $80,000 to $150,000 to fix those buildings, and the developers walked away scot-free. There's no repercussions of the developers. So today, in today's era, developers work for developers. They're there to make money. The engineers who are involved in the construction of the building, they work for the developer. They do not work for us people. The people who work for this, the inspection, the inspectors in the different municipalities, they work for the municipalities. They don't work for you. So if you're gonna buy into a home, even if it's a pre-sale, you've bought something, you've now moved in, you need to get it inspected to make sure that there's not somebody in there that's gonna burn your condo down, like the gas cooktop, or the dishwasher that's going to flood your floor and destroy your floor. Now you're going to be calling your insurance company, and hopefully they're going to cover it. So if you're going to buy into a condo, you need to have it inspected, not to mention the building itself. So get on the Strata Council and actually push to have that building inspected by a completely independent inspector. I do these inspections all the time. So a completely independent inspector, not an engineer, because the engineers work for the developers.
Right.
And the engineer that maybe didn't work for the developer on this specific project wants to work for them on the next project. So they're not going to want to damage the name. I don't work for developers.
Right.
I work for you, the consumer.
Right.
And if there's something wrong with the building, I'm going to find it. And with that, hopefully people will start getting confidence back into being able to buy into these pre-sale units, and hopefully it'll make better construction practices from the developers, because you always hear about these nightmare stories. They're all over the 6 o'clock news. They're all over social media.
Yeah.
I wish people maybe would share more of their issues with social media. I'm doing my best with my YouTube channels and to show what's actually going on, but I wish I had more time in the day to make more videos, because I'm so busy working. I don't have that much time, but I wish I did. But that's what's going on, and so the questions to be asking are, what type of a building? If it's one of these new 5 and 6 story wood frame buildings, and you've had a video talking about one that's been exposed to the weather for way too long.
Yes,
totally
I might even
agree.
share that at the end of the video.
Perfect. So what type of structure is it? Wood, concrete? What type of building envelope does it have? Is it glass? Is it structural concrete that has a coating on it? Is it hardy panel, hardy plank? There's all sorts of different ones. Is it wood siding, vinyl siding, all these different things? Not just even talking about new product, but older products too. It's a good always to look at that. How large of an actual parquet membrane does it have? There's a parquet that's near to your home actually, the membrane it's going to cost $2 million to replace it. All the people in that complex have to actually share in the expense of replacing that, and the complex, from my understanding, is only 14 years old, maybe 15 years old. So now all of a sudden, all the owners have to come up with whether or not these people have all owned the home for 15 years, they have to come up with $2 million to replace the parquet membrane, and not just the cost of the replacement of the membrane. The whole membrane is currently covered with landscaping, and that landscaping all has to then be put back at another cost. So, again, ask the right questions. What type of structure, what type of building envelope, how big is the parquet membrane? If it's a shallow parquet, not a deep one, then obviously there's going to be more surface area of that parquet membrane. And then what type of piping is in those walls? Is it PEX piping, which is the new type of piping we're using, or is it a copper product that potentially could deteriorate in 10 to 15 years? So.
Wow, you know what? I think if I came in with all those questions and one of those model suites, I think they're going to escort me out. Because I bet you they probably don't even know the answers to any of this, because they actually really do just count on us being very frivolous and taken in by what we see. Assume nothing. This is like scary shit, you guys. It really, really, sorry, Tom, but
That's okay.
It really, really is scary. So assume nothing. What I'm hearing from Tom, I don't know about you guys, like what's being built right now, if you have a pulse, you can put up walls, because that's sort of the way it's going. So for goodness sakes, do yourselves a favor. Don't hire an inspector that has a pulse. Find out what his qualifications are. Get some background, get some referrals. Hire the right guy, because you know what? It's actually not funny, because if you're paying $600,000-$700,000 for a unit and you start getting assessments within 5 years, and your strata fees or your HOAs in the States, you guys, this could be huge and something you can't sell. Do your homework, okay, guys? Please take a moment so you don't miss anything. It's getting more exciting every video. Do subscribe. Please make some comments or ask some questions. And yeah, liking would be awesome too. See you guys next week and check in. Have a great day. Thanks, Tom, again. I really appreciate you being here.
Thank you for having me. Thank you.
Bye.